Thank you. Thank you. Oh, heavens, it's good to be home. It's good to see you here. I pulled into the parking lot with Matthews as we drove in tonight, and he said, "Look at the throng." He said, "I think I'll preach." And I said, "Matthews, I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings, but I don't think they came to hear you preach." So shut up. But anyhow, he took it in a good spirit, and we're still friends. It is really good to be here. I don't know of a place I'd rather be than in Waco at 7th and James Baptist Church. This was my college church. As I was saying, I've had most of my fun in church. I really haven't gone much of any place else. You know, I grew up in a Baptist church back in the 50s when they believed if they could keep you at church, you wouldn't have time to sin. So like most Baptists my age, I learned to sin at church, which was... from experts, which is the best way to do anything. Well, I came from Jacksonville, Texas over here as a sophomore. I'd actually spent my first year at Wayland College out in Plainview, then transferred here and got to Baylor University and got into all the stuff that was going on here. But at Wayland, I was on partial scholarship in the Wayland International Choir. In fact, this summer we just had a reunion of our old choir members in Dallas with our former director and had about 35 of us back, and it was a blast. Got to remembering and reminiscing over all kinds of crazy things that happened out there. Well, I went to Wayland with my closest friend from home, Elmore Avery. A-V-E-R-Y-T, Elmore Avery. Funny guy. Avery was a bass in the quartet. He was on full scholarship. I was a tenor and on partial scholarship because my voice hadn't settled. They didn't know where I was going to wind up yet. Well, anyhow, we got to Wayland, and Elmore and I went to be in the choir, and we were absolutely crazy about the four freshman modernaires Stan Kenton type close-knit, smooth moving harmony. We just loved that stuff that, ooh, you know. And you didn't wind up a song with just pa-dum, pa-dum. You wound it up with ooh, you know, a lot of flutter and quiver. That was important. Well, Avery and I used to do that on everything. Hymns, you know, sing Happy Birthday to You in the dining hall. We'd all go ooh, you know, just move around and do weird things with your voice. People sit there and hit you with the back of hymn books in church and, you know, quit that. You know, we'd say, ooh, to them, you know. Well, we love to do that. Another thing we love to do, Avery and I were always inventing phrases. We love to invent phrases. We thought that was important. We invented phrases like ilk, I-L-K, was a super word. Somebody pulls a dumb pun, you don't go, you go ilk. That sort of says it, you know, ilk. Another thing we were doing, we were trying to invent cuss words for ministers. As most of you know, ministers are not permitted to use layman's cuss words. So we thought we would help them out. Now, people have the wrong attitude about ministers. They're really human. I can prove that. I am one. It's important to me to be considered as human. I don't want to slam my thumb in the car door and have to go, verily, verily. You know, really. That is not fair. Or stump your toe in the dark and you don't want to go, behold. You know, this. It doesn't get the pain out, really. You need to be able to kick a stump somewhere and go, woo-ha, you know, or something like that. So we're trying to help people get some ventilation language. So we thought up a couple of words. One was boogly, B-O-O-G-L-E-Y, boogly. Really, you could use that and say, get your boogly feet off my bed, right? That would work. Or you could say blotchy, B-L-O-T-C-H-E-Y, blotchy. You say, get your blotchy feet off my boogly bed, right? Those are interchangeable. You could tell a guy off and get away with it. Nobody'd report you to the pastor. I thought that was good. Well, we did that. Our very favorite word was Tarzan's favorite word, Gawah. We did that all the time. Tarzan was a cool guy. He'd get on a big fat limb, hold on the vine, fixing to swing to work in the jungle, you know. Cross his ankles so he wouldn't lose his swimsuit to the crocodiles. Seriously. That's why he's always in the water fighting alligators. Give my swimsuit back, you know. Really, there's signs all over the jungle, not permitted without your swimsuit, you know, things like that. So he's hanging on the rope, fixing to swing into the jungle. Looks off in the distance and sees a herd of elephants. Many, many elephants. Anything more than a elephant is a herd to me. You know, I just, behold, too much elephant on the horizon. But he spots old Tantor with a nick in his right ear. That's how you can always tell him from the other elephants. Tarzan looks out and he says, Tantor! And Tantor goes, you know, looks up, got a nose full of leaves, and Tarzan just nods his head, doesn't even turn loose of the vine, and goes, Gawah! And Tantor goes, right, you know, goes crashing through the brush in the jungle. He's scaring monkeys up trees and snakes in holes, man, just moving through the jungle. Comes upon a little pygmy hut, one of those little dinky huts. Just goes, smashes it, man. Pygmies go everywhere. I don't blame them. And then he looks at all of them and goes, Taroop! You know, that means Tarzan sent me. Now that's a good word, Gawah. Well, Avery and I came home for the Christmas holidays with all that kind of weirdness. We were always doing dumb stuff, you know, ooh, you know, ilk and boogly and blah. So we were really kind of swinging. We get home for Christmas, and the big thing at Christmas was we're going to sing in the church choir on Sunday morning. Now, we look forward to this. A lot of you don't look forward to going home and singing in the church choir. We did. We terrorized the church choir. We go in the church choir, and the reason I say we terrorized it, we sat on either side of our high school algebra teacher, an old Baylor graduate, baseball coach, algebra teacher supreme, chemistry, physics, and all that stuff named Bubs Mosley. Now, in all my experience, I ran into very few teachers that I think could even carry his suitcase. Bubs Mosley was one of the greatest teachers I ever had. And we loved him dearly, and he let us call him Bubs, which I thought was so cool. I respected a teacher who didn't take himself so seriously that he couldn't let us have fun with him. Bubs Mosley. Bubs was kind of portly, sort of gray and balding. He's the only choir member I ever saw whose robe fit. You know? And Bubs would sit up here in the choir. He's just about 250 pounds of pure tenor. And he loved to sing loud. Better than singing good, he sang loud. In fact, the Methodists 4 blocks away in the summer with the heat on and no air conditioning would keep their windows down till after the music was over at our church. Bubs was really loud. He'd get on those big, you know, just beller. Well, Elmore and I were always playing tricks on Bubs. We'd come out during prayers. We'd pass his shoes to the sopranos because he always took them off up there and stretched his toes, you know, so we'd pass his shoes. And all through the song, so he's pounding his feet, trying to find the right shoe. Couldn't find his shoe. Another thing we were always doing, we'd get him on big high notes, you know, way up there, and pinch him in the back of the leg. Woo! And he'd yell. He'd do it, you know. Another thing we loved to do to him, we'd sit down beside him in the choir, and then the minister of music would get all ready, hands out, trembling just a little. That lets you know he's intense. And just before he gives you the big swoop, Elmore and I would put our feet on Bub's robe tail piled up on the floor. And he'd give us the big whomp, and Bubs would hit the end of his robe and go caving back in the chair. And he would hit at us through the whole service, you know. And then we'd look at him like, what's wrong with you, Bubs? You know, mercy, you know, little things like that. I think the wildest thing we ever did to Bubs, Elmore and I used to love to play this hymn book game. You can have a lot of fun with a hymn book at church. I don't know if you know this, but you can. For instance, you ever hear the minister say, turn over in your hymn book? You know? I ain't never seen anybody could get in one, you know? Turn over in your hymn book. Or he'll say something like, let's sing the hymn of the morning and everybody stand. Now the big signal is everybody stand. In a Baptist church, that means everybody hang on to your book and get ready. Because nobody stands till somebody gives the big swoop, right? Whoomp, and then we all stand up. You got to have a signal or you don't move. Well, I love to watch that. Another thing we loved to do was play tricks with the back of the hymn book. Go back in the back. You'll find hymn titles listed in all capital letters. Like Holy, Holy, Holy will be all capital letters. That's a title. But if you don't know the title but can remember the opening phrase of a song, they'll give it to you with lowercase letters. The funniest one I ever saw, the title of the hymn is just classic. Did you think to pray? ? All capital letters is the title of the hymn. The opening verse is, ere you left your room this morning. Did you think to pray? Question mark. In the hymn book, back in the old Broadman hymnal years ago, it used to say, promise this is true, it would say, ere you left your room this morning, did you think to? You know, I'd go all day thinking, gosh, I hope so, you know, wouldn't it? What if I didn't, you know, and I almost always do, surely I did, you know, things like that, but you never know. But you can have a lot of fun in the hymn book. Now, we found, especially, I think the funniest thing we ever did was on Bubs this particular day. Elmore and I were good at this. I'd find a hymn title and point to it and send it to Elmore. He would thumb through and find a hymn title to go with it so that when you read the two together, it got weird. Well, we'd do that all through the service with Bubs sitting there trying to listen to the sermon. He'd put his book on its end, put his elbow on it, and hold his chin, and sit there through the service. And we'd pass this thing back and forth, and he'd watch it go to Elmore, watch it come back to me, and then he'd cave in, right? So when you put the two titles, the funniest one we ever got was this particular Sunday. I send it over Bubs to Elmore, and it says, have thine own way. About 2 minutes later, Elmore sends it back, oh, why not tonight? You know, that's true. And Bubs just died. Ah, you know, well, it was that kind of stuff. We just drove the poor man crazy. And I think he really loved it. Well, anyhow, this is on Sunday morning. We all get to church. We get in the choir, get our robes on. Everybody lines up. Finally, we go in. Pa-dum, pa-dum. All remain standing to sing an amen on the invocation. Our church was getting increasingly liberal. Last year we bought robes. This year we're singing amens. It's moving on. Where it'll end, nobody knows. People are worried. But anyhow, we're having fun. All came out and stand in place. Minister music comes out and takes his place, moves his music rack around, clears his throat, looks at everybody, and then he has to move three of us over, so everybody gets in place. It's more fun to be up in the choir. From the back, he looks so together, right? Like stately. Up here, he's going, just weird things are happening. Contorting his face and wanting to punch you, you know, and they think he's just going, bless your hearts. He's going, I'm going to kill you, you know. Well, anyhow, he gets us all lined up, has us open our music, and we open our folders, and then Bubs hits me because while he was combing his hair, I turned his music upside down in the folder. So he has to turn his all the way over, and he was upset. Well, we all got ready. Now the pastor came out humbly. Our pastor was so humble. He walked humble. Sort of took these little loping, limping steps, you know, like just limp, lope, you know. Been with us about 22 years. Every step he took said, I don't deserve to be here. You know. Then he'd open his mouth and prove it. And I just tickle me to death. And he would walk out, you know, and he would stand here, and he led us in what I grew to call the mumble to worship. Couldn't understand him. He'd look way off up in the balcony and go, and the rule of thumb was when he caught his breath, bow your head. So he would go, we'd all go, plum. Then he would pray the same way. And the rule of thumb was when he pauses for breath again, start singing, amen, amen. So we're all set. Minister music is listening. Pauses for breath, the organ, we all start singing, amen, amen. And we're really doing it, right? Came to the last note, amen. Hold it up there, keep it strong. Don't let it fade, you know. I don't know how far they think your eyes can bug out, you know, really. I'm going, man, just hard as I can hold it. Well, I didn't know Elmore was going to do this, and he didn't know I was going to do this. But we just hated to wind up, man, so we go, ooh, you know. We did. Golly. Well, the pastor popped a crick looking back to see who did it. You know, what is this? You know, we're all dying. Bubs is going, and we're saying to him, you'll be okay, Bubs, you'll be fine. Well, we sit down, we get through that part of the service, have the offertory. Comes time for the choral anthem of the morning. Minister music gets in front of us. Come on, group, do it well. Everybody ready? Right where it is. Okay. We all stand up. We're on Bub's robe tail. Come on, Bubs, get up. So we help him stand back up again, and Bubs is hitting at us. Click, you know. What he's forgetting is there's a high note and we're going to get him. And he gets on it. Here we go. Woo! He yelled. And I'm not saying you ought to do this. We just did. You know, it was just weird. Well, we finished that anthem up, and it was a real powerful, heavy number. Windows were just breathing in the church. Oh, hum, oh, hum. Organist was sweating till she couldn't keep her hands on the keys. I mean, it was powerful. Put on. Minister of music is just elated. He talks to us a few minutes. Oh, great, wonderful. From the back, he just looks dignified. Where we are, he's looking goofy, you know. Then he goes over and sits down. Pastor was deeply moved. Our pastor had this weird little deal he used to do. Anytime he had a moving, stirring moment in the service. We had 2 of those while he was our pastor. One was the Sunday he came, one was the Sunday he retired. But he had this thing, he wanted us to participate, right? So he would come to a powerful moment and he would say to the congregation, and all the people said, and the whole congregation would go, amen. You know, really, when he first started that, they'd yell amen so loud that the baptistry curtain would flap up here, just flap, 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 you know. Amen. Through the years, it had lost intensity. He would say, and all the people said, and the whole congregation would go, just pitiful, man. Well, this time he had a moving, stirring moment. Choral offering had lifted him up. He leaped to the pulpit and says to the congregation, wanting the choir to hear a resounding word of support, and all the people said, and he looks at us as the congregation goes, And Elmore and I were expecting amen, so we go, Gawah. We did. And it's true.